Do you live off of your business's andor investments?
Not sure if this has been brought up before, but I am interested in the ratio of employees to employers here.
Not yet, I don't. Maybe 2 to 3 years away.
Yes. Made the switch from employee to self-employed about 2 years ago. However, still working very much in the
Next goal is
business.
to reach a state where we are overseeing the businesses at a higher level, where the business could operate without our daily input, for months at a
Employee
time.
and self-employed over here, not for long.
Yes. Started my own business in 1979 in college. In addition, had employee sales jobs and other things to help pay the bills until 1988. Have been self-employed, supported solely by my businesses, since 1988. Wow, 20 years ago. Thanks for this. Helped found my first nonprofit in 1989. One of 9 crazy guys. We didn't do it to make money, we did it to help establish an
The
industry.
nonprofit's annual trade show currently has over 25,000 attendees and is the core of a now multi-billion-dollar industry. Started my first corporation in 1997. Now have multiple corporate entities: C Corp, S Corp, limited partnerships, etc.
Tax time is a bugger, paperwork out the wazoo. Our most labor-intensive business currently has 4 full-time, and 4 part-time employees, plus a few more folks who help: landscaper, contractor, etc. Our plan is to retire in the next 4 years or so, or $200-250K in passive annual income. Russ
Nope.
H.
I've understood for many years, conceptually, that I had to create some sort of residual passive income in order to be truly
I
financially
lived off
free.
my MLM income for 10 years, and off my eBay's business for another 3. But in order to maintain the lifestyle to which I've grown accustomed, I've got to do the 9 to 5 thing.
I could dump the huge house, luxury car, etc. and on relatively passive income.
But to create the lifestyle that I want for the long term, it will require that I continue to build massive passive income, which can only be fueled by big E or S income in the short term. If I'm wrong, I'm willing to listen.
I think it all comes down to the best use
If
of
you
your
do
time.
not believe that you can find a way to make more income, on an hourly or weekly or monthly basis, compared with the income from your job, then I suppose you are best off where you are now. The question is, have you explored all of the investment options to prove this theory? Would you be willing to give up the extravagant vehicle or home, temporarily, to obtain true wealth
It
faster?
is really just a matter of priorities. The answers are different for everyone. Thanks for the insights and feedback, Frugal. I think I recall reading that you have the same background, HR software consulting, formerly
Or
Big
was
Five.
that someone else? And no, I wouldn't be willing to give up the lifestyle to buy my freedom 5 years sooner.
This is, after all, the lifestyle that I will be seeking
I'm
to
just
enjoy.
lucky that I can enjoy it, while also having enough dollar left over to put in place the plan for the future, for example early retirement. Although, I'll be the first to admit, there might be other avenues that are faster than what I'm currently doing.
I think that if I can suck it up for a few more years, generating a 10-15K each month, then I can invest a lot more into passive income properties than I could if I were just squeaking by. But I'm certainly open to suggestions. Just here to learn
Jill,
and
have
grow.
you ever played Cashflow 101, the board game?
Russ
First
H.
company supports me and my lifestyle, looking to hire a business manager type to take over and move on to the second business in the works. Kind of Slowlane in a lot of ways, but the one business takes care of me. To answer your
Yes,
question,
I have the computer-based version. I'm looking forward to playing the board game at Beer and Pancakes. I understand the concept. I'm just not willing to take the kid out of private school and move to a lesser neighborhood so I could have $18,000 or more to invest in Fastlane projects instead of $14.
I hope that doesn't sound smug or defensive. That's not my intention here at all. And I don't want to sound boastful either, as I know many of you make much more, and I want to enjoy life now. I'm older than most of you. Could I get my freedom a little faster if I invested the extra $4,000 that's currently buying my lifestyle each month? Almost certainly. I just don't see it making much difference. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm here
Our
to learn.
changeover has been done step by step. First we were barely getting by. Well, hubby was an E and I was a mom then. We were an S, doing okay.
I was an S or B and hubby quit the E to work on some I now. We are living off the I and doing more of it. I sold the B, however, We are not at the passive
While
I
some
level.
of our investments are I, we proactively develop additional investments and other projects. The purpose is twofold: 1. Supplement the I income. 2. Increase the net worth, to be converted to more I income. Russ, there is a topic for the P&B get-together.
How on earth can you streamline all that paperwork generated by the gazillion companies? Coco, the paperwork and bookkeeping on all this drives me crazy.
Jill, very successful MLM, eBay business. You obviously have the capability to create the B-style business that can support your desired lifestyle.
There are definitely options for you to consider. I will be really interested to see how you feel about things after the PNB gathering. You can get into the apartment value play game, or the self-storage development game. You can build another base.
How do you keep the lifestyle up in the meantime? Earmark 1 to 2 years worth of living expense as your
Quit
salary.
the job. Now you have all the time you need, and a deadline. 2 years to develop your new project or business.
Me too. I'm very excited to brainstorm with you guys. Okay, it may just be a flurry in my case. Thanks so much for spending the time to help me think about ideas beyond my current line of sight. Speed plus.
Jill, my wife and I live in the Napa Valley, in a $12 million house, and send our child to the best daycare in town only because we're finishing up a very big project. We actually want to retire so we can spend more time over the kids, not less.
But that's just us. We eat out at some of the world's finest restaurants a lot.
We drive newish cars. The most recent Countach we bought a few months ago or 15 km on it, full factory warranties to 75 km. We travel as we please, as long as it fits our businesses and what we're doing or them. This Sat we leave for 18-day road trip which ends in Phoenix for the B&P GT.
We go to the beach often, and stay in a little beach house there. Almost bought a beach house this past year. You do sound a bit smug, but for different reasons that you might suspect. And I realize that I sound a bit smug too, but I'm doing this tongue in cheek.
You are living the life of a middle-class rat racer,
not the life of a business owner. Our child care is paid for 100% by our business's pre-tax income.
So is our home. So are those great restaurants. B or C, we need them for research for our guests. So is our health care, including the IVF that we did and will do for our kids. Our upcoming trip is also a complete write-off.
Starts with a hotel expo, middle Paris meeting or fellow in keep and business people in so cal so we shows Disneyland our base. Hey, what's the problem or that? Anything does in a PHXW or you guys all my way of saying, you could be doing this a bit differently. And keeping a low more of your money. By structuring your ventures ABSNs. Not NSS. Covering your expenses with pre-tax income. Diane Kennedy's books are great resources for this. We can talk more about this at the BPGT, if you'd like. Roussache.
Yes, I was a software consultant SAP Fire CO for 7 to 8 years, and I did have some crossover work into the HR modules. I can definitely understand the hesitancy of leaving that income. That said, for me, the lifestyle was about having the freedom to do what I want, when I want €1 not so much about the car, the house, handbags and shoes, although I do splurge a bit in these departments too. I assume by Euro lifestyle Euro trademark these are the types of things you are referring to. Euro broken bar.
Not the 9-14 work days and loads of travel? I agree that we should enjoy life now, and that, to me, means having the freedom to take a vacation when I want, to end the day early because it is outside, to have a drink with the girls, the husband or head to the beach.
I want complete control over every hour of my day, not just a small portion. Again, everyone is different.
You may love the work I did for a few years, but, if that were the case, I imagine you would not be concerned with an early retirement. ATW has
Plus,
got it
if you
right.
set aside a portion of those funds for yourself 1 to 2 years of lifestyle spending, I think you would be amazed at what you are capable of accomplishing. Money seems to grow so much faster once it is your complete, undivided attention.
That's because I am a middle-class rat racer. LOL.
But I am in the process of changing that, which is why I am coming to BNP and in other ways trying to gain as much knowledge and REI as I can, as I believe this will be the most efficient tool for me to move into the fast lane. I'm not trying to fight you guys here. I'm not sure I made myself clear.
Because I think that I really do understand the concept. But we may not be that far off at all. I think the primary difference in what you're saying and what I'm saying is that since I'm already blessed with quite a bit of disposable income every month, I don't feel compelled to drastically cut back my lifestyle to provide just a little more.
I'm incorporated and pay most of my expenses, pre-tax, out of that. And I have read several
of Diane's books over the past year. One of the reasons I'm coming to Phoenix in March is to meet with an accountant to whom DKA referred me. Thank you for taking the time to dish out some tough love though. Seriously.
I didn't come here to be coddled. Definitely. That's why I'm coming. Okay, well, not to talk to you.
SMXB, but to learn from other like-minded folks who are already doing what I want to be doing. Believe me, if I can figure out a way to get something else in place that will support my lifestyle sooner, I'm all over it. There's no warm spot in my heart for HR
Not
software.
Really. I've kinda wrapped up the doodad gathering phase of my life, and am moving on into asset acquisition phase. I realize now that I went about it all backwards.
But I can't change that now. I'm just hesitant to give up the consulting gig because I've yet to find anything to compare to the cash flow.
As soon as I am able to replace it 100 units, positive cash flowing $200 or more, I'm out of there. I could do it sooner, since the hubby has a real rat race job. But I feel like I need to earn as much as possible, in order to acquire as many properties as possible and quickly as possible in order to make up for lost time and get us both out of the rat race. What am I missing? I want to ask. How much is enough? Why does it have to be $20,000 a month in order to retire? I know you already are generating $15,000, but what is the minimum you need to? Do you really need $20,000 to retire? Isn't $10,000 enough? What about $7,000? And again, I am asking as all of these questions lead you back to your plan, or lack of. How would you feel if your apartment building was giving you only $12,000 a month? Would you retire then? I ask all of these questions as I got the feeling that, no matter how much your investment is generating for you, you will still get the great feeling of those extra $15,000 that your current activity generates, kind of an addiction. Makes sense? I got the feeling that I can't express correctly today, no clue Jill, why. My mistake. If you're a C Corp, then you're getting many of the tax advantages of a business owner. As a self-employed person. Have you in there? Actually, you've already done much of this work, or your Tony Robbins material. As with Tony Robbins stuff, the plan thread is kinda like riding a bike. You've got to actually get on the bike and do it to really appreciate what it can do, as opposed to reading a thread about bike riding. You may not have a chance to get all of them done before B&P, but if you can make it through core values and the next step all the way up to, but not including tracking expenses, then your head may be in a slightly different place, a good place mind you for the meetup. Rush.ps May I be nosy and ask who the account is you're meeting with? Ours is in Tempe, and was referred by DK as well. I'm a corporate gal myself. I take the gigs because I love it. I don't have a problem with redirecting cash from a job.
Into investments.
That's what the hubby and I did and still do. Heck. $15,000 a month seed money will build you $1 million net worth in 6 years without investing. Combine that with investing, which you are doing, and yeah, I'd consider that fast track. Could you do it faster? Maybe. But maybe not. Corporate is a completely different animal than startup. If you're good at one, no guarantee you'll be good at the other. I think what is throwing people is that language you're using. Saying that you have to, can only, that sort of thing. You know you have choices. We all do. And this route sounds like your choice. Are you still in the rat race? Yep, and you will be until your passive income equals or is greater to your expenses. If you don't want to decrease your expense, and why would you? You gotta bump up the passive income. It ain't rocket science. I guess I should answer the original question. Nope. The hubby and I live off of our salaries, less than our salaries, investing the difference. Could we live off passive income? Sure, but I think we would both go stark raving mad within a couple months. I lasted 4 months retired. I wrote a novel and a novel plan to do that again this year. My hubby is lucky to make it through an entire weekend without working. So we simply reinvest the proceeds. We aren't fast track. Took us 13 years to build $1 million net worth. My goal is to get us there working on the stock portfolio. If you're going to do something, might as well do it at the best of your abilities. That means
going as fast as you
Jill,
can.
perhaps it comes down to your time. and the best use of that time. From what I have gathered, the goal is to get out of the rat race without diminishing the lifestyle in the meantime. Am I right?
Let's put a timeline on the deal. 2 years. Of course, this is just an arbitrary number I am pulling out of thin air.
Insert your own timeline. Now, let's look at 2 options. 1. You continue to work the job, socking away $15K or more into real estate investments.
What would your cash flow be in 2 years? Of course, there are a lot of other assumptions you would need to make in this calculation, and this will vary widely from investor to investor and vehicle to vehicle.
2. You quit the job, use a portion of your savings to live for 2 years at your current standard of living. If you are able to devote 100% of your time, where could you be in 2 years?
If freeze your vehicle, then you could devote your time to development or rehab rather than a less time-intensive acquisition of an existing property.
In the end, could you use your time to build a multi-million-dollar business or to add the sweat equity to major property development, and have that dollar amount higher than your salary? How do these plans differ? Which looks more appealing to you? I could pick some numbers and work through each of these options, but better if you do.
No. Not for both of us to retire. Definitely not. Not I would start considering it. And no, I'm not one of those who loves the thrill of making a good salary.
I'm also not a security freak. I'm actually a bit of a risk taker. But I've stepped in and out of the corporate world several times already, and I just don't want this final time to be premature, because in my industry, it would be hard to re-enter.
We can talk more details at Cheers, BNP, SMX7. I look forward to hearing your insight. Thanks a bunch for taking the time. Speed Plus.
In the process of playing cash flow, I recall that it was more difficult to enter the Fastlane. MJ, we need a new game if you started out as a doctor or lawyer as opposed to being a mechanic. There is no right or wrong.
It may just take more time is all. I personally have been living off my investments for the last 7 years. The passive income exceeds expenses. Done deal on this part.
By choice, I sacrificed my home close to the beach as part of the expense reduction. There may be a time that we move back to the beach, but I like where I am at now. The expense reduction is in the past.
S Corp, actually, since it is primarily a professional service provider. But still, working on them. WLB, in Glendale.
J. Scott, I appreciate where you are coming from. You and I have a similar point. In which way will a high-income job get there faster? I want to clarify, I am not saying one is better than the other.
I'm simply giving a framework that could be useful in thinking about the situation. Which is better for Jill? Obviously, only Jill can say. Perhaps it is 1. Perhaps it is 2.
Perhaps it is the number 3 that I haven't thought of! I don't care for labels. Not even the label of Fastlane or Slowlane. I care about finding what works for me, and helping others find what works for them.
If I sounded like I was trying to force one option to be superior, then that was not my intention. I was also tailoring my response to Jill based on the following Jill quotes.
Thanks again for the input, but this is getting a little embarrassing since I feel like the threads become an analysis of me and my financial future. Yikes.
I'd love to have all these conversations going on privately. Because I love the synergy of having all you guys trying to help me get there. But I blush. Let's resume this convo at B&P.P.S. You're both right. I would love to find a way to quickly replace my income, but what I do is so easy for me, I can't imagine finding a way to do it faster than just keeping my current gig for a couple more years, and investing that.
I have a hunch that for most people, making the transition is a step-by-step process. And, so much of it is the mental shift too, not just the physical or financial reality.
At least, I know that for us, it is. We never could have made some of the physical or financial steps that we made without first making some mental shifts in how we think about money.
Nope. Sorry. We used Provision. They were actually working W or Diane as DKA, but that was when we hired them a few years ago. But I see that WLB works W or Diane on Maui Millionaires. Very cool. Russ H.
Actually, it is an apostrophe T. Not really. I think most of us have thought long and hard about making a big corporate salary for seed money versus immediately bootstrapping, even had to justify it to friends and families. This has merely given us an op to discuss it. Because of the nature of this board, most members, I believe, lean towards bootstrapping, but I've seen people be successful with both routes. Jill, You talk about investing $15,000 a month. Do you mind me asking what that is as a percent of total take-home? Because when I tell folks that we invest with our job
cash, they immediately think that 10% advisors that isn't exactly working for seed money.
Stevie-O, do you think this is due to higher expenses, longer working hours, or the lawyer's brain being completely drained at the end of the day? Or maybe a combo of all three? I've been thinking about this a lot lately. My brother, an aspiring screenwriter, works a relatively manual job. His brain is pretty much fresh at the end of the day, so he can write while he's working. By the end of my day in new business development, I'm mentally wiped. I can barely work on my investments, never mind write a fresh piece of fiction. And reason I take the summers off to write. So which of our jobs is more conducive to building wealth? I'm thinking here.
In my experience, it is due to the doodads they feel they need. While a garbage collector can get by driving a 92 pickup truck, a doctor needs an '08 Mercedes. Garbage collector, no college loans.
Doctor, huge college loan. Garbage collector, kids go to public school. Doctor, private school. So, in order to cover the required expenses, the garbage collector can maintain his lifestyle on $2,400 of passive income. So $6 million in ACD returning 5% would work for him.
A piece of with a 15% coker, would only require a $200,000 investment. But the doctor might need $30,000 per month to maintain his lifestyle.
That would take over $7 million earning the same 5% return. The doctor would have to come up with a $2,400,000 investment in at that 15% to do the same.
It's because of higher expenses. The doctor and lawyer have 4 or 5 times the expenses, but only about double the cash flow, so naturally it takes longer for them to build passive income greater than expenses. In the real world, I think you have a great point.
That was something I loved about my job. It was gone from my head the second I stepped out the door of the office, and I was in business building mode the moment I got home. There's a great t-shirt for entrepreneurs who still have a job.
Wow. I still remember my last couple of years on my job. The long extra hours stopped. I came home to work on my investments and plan. The job became less of a hindrance at that point. It may be a major hurdle to some though.
I know it's not wise to funnel all my energy into building other people's businesses. I'm hoping that once the writing career gets busy, first novel out in May, that'll give me the same high product development does. It is like launching 2 new products a year. All aspects of a product launch are covered.
At my last job, I started out as a file clerk and worked 8:30 to 5 p.m. and the pay was low. No overtime and the job was easy. Answer phones, put files away, open and deliver the mail.
I had time for school, to work on our garden, cook or bake from scratch and research investing options. When I was promoted to a paralegal and my pay kept going up, if I wanted to leave by 6 p.m., I had to get to work by 7 a.m. Our expenses did go up because I had no time or energy to cook, clean, and I needed material rewards for the stressful week. I began having a more disposable lifestyle because it was cheaper for me to just buy new and have it shipped to the house. Now I am working for myself, I am back to low pay and low expenses. I'm still working a lot of hours, but I'm getting 100% of the benefit now.
I can't help it. I keep thinking about that thread we had here about the comfort that a high-paying job provides. So many see that as a problem that won't let you take the steps needed to make it big time.
Why? Because, if you don't do anything, you still get your salary coming in. Very good thread.
I wish. No, it's about 50%.
Interesting discussion how people justify not starting a business and or putting the business on low priority in order to maintain a current lifestyle or standard of living. From my own personal observations and experience, it's a bit different.
The people who focus on their own business and really understand the big picture, for example, thinking globally, not locally, blow past the big spending wage earners. I went from full-time student, part-time job, trying to work 7 days a week on my business to working on my business exclusively 7 days a week, and my income jumped by about 30-40x, and it's still going up. This wasn't like going from $100 a month to $4,000 either. By the time I walked away, my earnings were already substantial. Just like you get an exponential growth from compounding ROI, I believe you get that same compounding effect with focus. Now, it's not my job to tell anyone what to do.
Live your life exactly the way you want to, No one else can tell you how to be happy.
Just make sure you think things out as you go so you don't end up somewhere you don't want to be.
Thanks for your response to that, J. Scott. I was trying to figure out how to respond to it without sounding defensive. I think what some folks haven't stopped to consider is that sometimes the big ships turn somewhat slower than their little Hobie cats.
If I didn't have the lives and lifestyles of my husband and daughter to consider, then I could sell everything, live in an apartment with a couple of roommates, and invest $20,000 or month instead of $15,000 or whatever the numbers turn out to be. But that's not an option for me now. So I have to work with that which I have, which is not all that bad for a lowly wage earner.
I'm sure that Andrew and others are able to sock far more than $15,000 or more into their Fastlane projects than I am. But we work with the hands dealt us.
Nothing in life is guaranteed.
There is no guarantee that a new or existing business will make X amount of income. Likewise, there is no guarantee that an employee will have his or her job tomorrow. I think a big part of it comes down to control.
As MJ often says, would you like to be the driver or the passenger? There is no doubt that you can do well, financially, in either situation, but it is arguable as to whether you can accomplish massive wealth without owning your own company.
The tax implications of being an employee are simply not in your favor. Not everyone is comfortable being the driver. Some people feel safer as an employee and others truly feel more secure running the show themselves. I fear that what some employees might be missing, if in fact they do want to drive, is that it probably does not take quite as much as one might think to replace their existing income.
With the change in taxation, you can make substantially less and still keep the same amount. You do not have to start from scratch.
You can buy an existing operation, which is producing income day one. As a high-salaried employee, unless you have really slacked on saving, it is likely that you have the capital to engage in such an activity. It all comes down to what you want.
Do you want to do the extensive research and planning? Do you want the responsibility?
Do you want to deal with the fear, which often comes with change? People who want it are not any better or worse than those who do not. It's about choice.
Every situation is different. You never know from looking at a snapshot what led up to that moment in time.
I would be one of those people who would love to trade places with Jill. Lol. Heck, I'd trade with a teenager working at McDonald's at this point. I'd love to be able to put away any amount of money a month towards my investing goals.
I am forced to try to create income instead.
It would be way easier to have a job to get the money rather than making it come from the air. For me anyway, unfortunately getting a job isn't in the cards for me, so I got to do what I got to do. Right now we have a surplus of about $55 a month, and that usually gets spent on the kids or gas. $55 doesn't go very far these days. I am taking my seed money for 4x out of our income tax return. Just to be perfectly clear, I do not view employee bootstrapping as an inferior practice.
It was an employee, in fact, in the same profession as Jill, and I can say that I would not be where I am today without that experience, from a financial or business sense point of view. I disagree.
While I respect and care for my customers, vendors and investors, I do not view them as my boss. Bill Gates chooses to be an employee now, after creating substantial wealth as the founder or creator of this company. In my line of work, my customers are my tenants. If anything, I tend to view them as an employee of the company. When they complete a rental application, it is like a job application. If they do not perform, according to the employment agreement lease, they are fired, evicted. Do I create a nice work-living environment and try to understand their wants or needs? Of course, because that is good business, and a good work environment is conducive to productive employees. Of course, a lot of people would trade with Jill, although I am not sure about 95%. The greater percentage of our population is not in a secure financial position. For the record, I think Jill has stated that she is not an employee. As I understand it, she has a company and contracts her services through this entity. To take the subject back off my particular situation, and frame it in more generic terms, the choice should be a business decision.
It should be about comfort, control, security or happiness or any of the other that have been attributed throughout this board as the reason someone stays in a job. Let's suppose that someone wants to start a new Fastlane business, but they have $0.
These are the types of questions he should be asking himself when deciding whether it is time to go full-time. And as an aside, back to me. Yes, PHLGRL, I do have my own corporation. I am an employee of that corporation.
But as a professional services provider, I am very much an S. This could be turned into a B, by adding other consultants to my stable of talent, and selling them in addition to or in lieu of myself.
That is an incremental step I have planned on the road to freedom. But for now, I'm not going to kill the goose that is giving me golden eggs every month to build my eye.
This has been framed so far as a dilemma or a decision for the high wage earner, but I feel it is actually an issue for any E that has made the decision to work toward financial independence.
The zeros don't matter. It is the process, the lessons, the decisions, and the drive that matters. To me, it is a three-part question. 1. To move toward passive income. There is a big distinction between an E that is happily working away as an E with no plans for financial independence and the E that recognizes the need for financial security through financial independence.
Of course, once an E realizes that it will be a goal to work toward financial independence, the transition does not occur overnight. Many people on this board have the objective of eliminating the E- and therefore react negatively to that one-letter bad word. Once an E makes the decision to go financial independence, there are two basic options. 2. The decision has been made to become financially independent.
Now, a choice. Do you use some of your saved capital for living expense, quit the cold turkey and start the brewery, or do you continue therefore supporting the lifestyle without cutting into capital and work on the brewery enough hours?
3-4-hour work week, a great way to increase the number of hours you have in a given timeline. Which option will produce the desired result? Passive
All the
income.
following factors certainly play into that. The result will be different for everyone here, and there is no universal correct answer. 3. And finally, and life enjoyment. This has to play into a
The
decision.
lifestyle of a bootstrapper or an REI or a business owner is certainly much different, no better or worse than someone that must go to a job. How will the decision affect your happiness?
How will it affect your family? When I graduated from college, I got a job offer from a Big 5 at the time accounting firm.
I could have taken the career path and worked 60 hours a week. In the end, I decided not to accept the job. I just couldn't imagine working that many hours away from my kids.
I am reading that, and it is a great book for someone concerned about enjoying life now, rather than deferring that enjoyment. It is easy to say that this is a high earner dilemma, but it is actually a decision for each and every person that has not yet arrived at the destination.
The way I see it, if Jill is banking 50% of her take-home and invests that at 15%, not exactly Fastlane, she'll cover her expenses with passive income in less than 5 years. Would you give up 5 years on your plan to be financially secure forever? I would, and I did. I gave up 13 years of the plan. Well, not really, as I was working on elements at the same time for exactly that, cause ignorant me was investing at lower rates. It's not fast lane thinking, but it makes sense to me. Jill, I want to recant some of my earlier comments to you. When I first read your posts, you sounded like a classic rat racer, unwilling to give up creature comforts aka doodads or make any changes in lifestyle. That sounds like most of the 3 weeks away from broke middle classes in the US. Take away their primary source of income, and they're screwed in part B or C. They feel like they must continue their lifestyle, no matter the
We
cost.
even interviewed a gal last year who had been a real estate agent for 3 years and not made a single sale! She had refit her house, cashed out, and was living off the Hillax. Paying for her lifestyle, drove a Jag, wore Manolos by just increasing the loan on her house. She realized that her time of living off credit was nearing an end, and she was very honest, looking for a fun job while she hunted for some guy to take care of her. And no, I'm not making this
I
up.
was flabbergasted! Am I comparing you to her? No. Well, okay, I am. In some ways. Your first posts indicated someone who worked hard, and was proud of their expensive lifestyle. The words you chose made you sound like a classic employee. From your follow-up posts, I can see that you are a high-income self-employed, and are employing a pre-tax income strategy. Very smart, and not very middle-class rat race. After I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I too turned my business into a real money machine. I grossed between $300–500K a year, and put away a lot of that. But the more I played cash flow, the more I realized we were doing things the slow way. Way slow. So my wife and I talked about what we wanted to do with our newfound knowledge, developed a new plan, and we ramped down both of our businesses. Short version, took me 8 years to get about $500,000 as an S. Once we started our new plan, we made about $1.2 million in less than 2 years. 3 years after that, and we're just about to pass the $5 million mark. Happy to give you more details at the meetup, if you want. Russ H. Definitions for those reading this post who have not read The Rich Dad, Poor Dad books. That's what I don't understand from this discussion and why I asked what percent of income was being banked. Who is saying that passive income isn't being built? Jill, are you stuffing that $15,000 under your mattress every month? Heck, she could be investing in real estate, stocks, private placements, etc. Is that not fast lane thinking?
Exactly! I'm trying to point out here that it is a process. Just because you read does not make you a drone. You can be any in the process of obtaining financial independence.
Not exactly. I'm not proud of my expensive lifestyle. I simply enjoy it. And there are many things that I am trying to cut back on, such as $900 electric bills.
Not too proud of that. And the other thing you got wrong, I don't really work that hard.
Jiggy, most definitely. I look forward to picking your brain. Nothing would make me happier than hanging my consulting clothes in the closet for good.
I'll float something else. If you are an entrepreneur, you read.E. Might not apply to paper and real estate investors. You'll only last so long in corporate anyway before you lose your mind. John Lee Hacker calls it the entrepreneurial switch. One of my mentors told me work as long as you can, bank as much as you can, learn as much as you can, 'cause one day that door will be closed, and once it closes forever. When it closes, you gotta be prepared. Have some sort of replacement income, passive or otherwise. I thought that was a load of but it happened to me at 34. Although I still take contract gigs, I could never ever go full-time again. The door is closed. I give the contract gigs less than 5 years before I won't be able to stand those either. I have to get something else, not for the money that is covered, but because I'll do insane.
I kindly disagree somewhat with the above. Here is why.
I'll use myself for example. I work for a major company that pays me very well just to watch TV. Of course there is more. It has excellent benefits, a fixed 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. schedule and over 6 weeks vacation.
It provides me an easy way to get loans because I can full doc and my 401k is looked at as reserves money.
Using that as starting point, I can now buy property anytime I want to because of it, versus if I was just an entrepreneur having to bootstrap and go started on loans, which is harder to do nowadays. I mentally focus on opportunity I would need to depend on them in the future. My current business along with the property I own, I could probably live on now but not comfortably.
Maybe my success story post is in order, Russ. Banana, I know we'd all appreciate hearing how this happened. It gives hope to those looking to make the change and working on our
With apologies to Kermit at least on the Fastlane forum. But as some have said, criticizing someone just because they work as
is a bit disingenuous. This job and plan are certainly more fast lane than an here who owns their own business, likes exotic cars, but actually doesn't bank anything close to $100,000 a year into investments. Nothing that's special about being an, or even a or for that matter. Robert Kiyosaki's point is that, structured right, you can get a lot more done, with less personal time commitment, as a business owner or investor. I agree. Russ H. Kiyosaki divides money generating into 4 quadrants: E employee, S self-employed, B business owner, and I investor.
He points out that the money S and S's can make is limited by how much of their own personal time they put in.
But a proper business owner or investor can use leverage other people's money, skill, time, etc. to make money.
B and I are scalable.
E and S are not. Nuki and no net worth know-it-alls. An acronym coined by MJ for all the experts on the Rich Dad forums who are long on advice but short on cash.
Pretty much agree with the above. Sometimes I have to take a slight break from this forum from time to time, because of all of the fast or slow lane, millionaire, job's bad malaise.
The goal should be to achieve your level of personal success. Not everyone can be a millionaire, but more people can be a 100,000-aire, and if they reach that, then the millionaire status isn't far off with the right money moves.
This forum is about learning the ways of the fast lane. Why else would someone be here?
Exactly, Russ. What is important is that we are progressing towards Fiore and that if we're using that time and income wisely. Frankly, I wasn't ready for the fast lane 10 years ago. It was so far away from my own reality that I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't go from debt is good because it paid for toys to debt is good because it increases the return without the debt is bad in between stage. I knew, intellectually, that it made sense. I did the numbers, I helped others with their own deals. But I just couldn't connect the dots for myself. It was very frustrating. I don't know.
I guess I needed the baby steps. The detox before the new lifestyle. Now I'm ready though. I'm getting serious about my paper investing and I'm looking out for a business idea. I know this contract gig thing is going to end soon, so I have that incentive.
I see what you mean, J. Scott. I do agree with it as well. There are many different paths to the fast lane. MJ took a very different route than I did, but we both made it.
I sacrificed his early years while I went off to work on a job for my career. My awakening was much later in life. From my perspective, I have a recipe that should yield results if do whatever it is that you can to make as much money as you can. Develop a plan for investing this money that fits with your risk or rewards level. Your risk is minimized with a good
My
plan.
idea would be to save $50K and put it into an apartment deal, self-serving, but this is the path that I know. Team with others and make sure you have a plan for value improvement. You should be set after a couple of apartment turns. See how easy it is.
I could actually care less about the learning about ways of the fast lane. That term is relative. What I do enjoy reading on the board are the opportunities that are out there and how people evaluate them.
For example, the person who has a bed and breakfast or the person who does cabins. That it's more interesting to read how they are making changes for maximum profitability, and using the ideas found here to implement into my business plans.
Instead of the well that is Slowlane, because he's not bootstrapping it like a starving artist.
My first cousin is just retired from the NFL and will soon be inducted into the Hall of Fame, considering he's a millionaire. But he had to work a job to become a millionaire. From what I read here, that's the Slowlane way. Maybe he should have started a blog instead of football.
Some people give opinions on fast lane and Slowlane thinking, and it is relative as you say. It seems to me that your idea of looking at people's ideas for investing is with the intent of getting ahead.
That is what the forum is all about. People will have opinions though. Perhaps I missed it, but are people saying that making a lot of money and putting it to work is slow?
I don't mean to derail this thread. And I don't know anything else about your situation. But you are exactly the type of person I was referring to in post 105 who could do what we did for short-term just an idea. If you have any other questions about it, feel free to email me or ask on that thread. Okay. Back to regular programming.
You gonna be at BNP? We need to talk. I will be there. I will be in Houston the week before looking at more apartment deals along with one that I have under contract. Looks like that is almost your neck of the woods.
Not too far. 5-hour drive. Have you looked at the DFWESP Mid-Cities area where there's so much drilling going on for the next 10 years in the Barnett Shale? Some estimates have FT
worth growing by $50K in that time. I think that's a little high. But still. Anyway, yeah. Definitely we'll have to find a couple of minutes to chat. I've got my air, hotel and rental car resume.
I was going to chime in. But I kinda want to see how it all turns out. SMXG.
Hey, I want to know what I am. Business now only have no job, so I am not on only income personally avis from
My
SSD.
DH is me. I don't own a business or own a job, so I am not an SRB. I guess I am technically already retired. I hope to be a true line by year's end.
Don't chime in like that and then leave us alone.
Professional athletes, entertainers and musicians are all operating under a fast lane environment exclusive of it being labeled a job.
Unfortunately, the average Joe Blow like me and you cannot, under any circumstances, no matter how much we read, study, practice, or train, cannot become athletes or sing songs in front of millions.
Some fast lanes are off limits due to the physical demands that most of us are not endowed
No
with.
matter how many books I read about pro basketball, I'll never become a professional doing it. For the other comments, I started to write comments but instead will opt to explain visually. The whole point of the fast lane is to acquire a significant amount of wealth in the shortest period of time.
Plans that involve 20 to 35 years to work really don't qualify, which is why they are inherently labeled Slowlane. They consume your greatest asset,
Mind
time.
you, however, that slow lanes and fast lanes can lead to great amounts of wealth.
Nobody would argue that many corporate CEOs of the world's oldest companies are filthy rich via stock options and bonuses. The problem therein is most of them are in the 50s and 60s unless you examine Wall Street and technology companies, which itself usually is comprised of entrepreneurial-oriented folks. Trading my life away in hopes to achieve an affluent lifestyle in my elder years is not a plan I want.
Given a choice of being one exactly where I am now or to give everything up and live paycheck to paycheck with the divine knowledge that I'd win the $100 million Powerball at age 55, I unequivocally pick number one. Each and every time.
I think most other people would too.
You are a gift, MJ. Cheers.
Thanks, MJ. Speed plus I'm hearing that Rod Stewart song, I wish that I knew what I know now, when I was younger.
Thanks for putting that graph up, MJ. I have a better understanding of the terms in the context of how it's used here. I'm going to start another post based on a CPL observations I've noted.
At this time, no. I started getting heavier into investing just within the last few years. At some point I expected to, but I'm just starting to scratch the surface.
Love the chart, MJ. How's the book coming
Previous
along?
generations may have a different perspective, basically quite at age 26 a corporate job but had a curiosity to learn. It seemed like the big picture was the most challenging, learning concepts. Always worked but never had to work roaming California. Lived off of re-debt but kept acquiring just for the freedom and fixing up without understanding the total technology.
Thought it was too easy, no money down, creative financing, etc., etc. Needed a bigger challenge and looked at over 200 company and finally
That was
bought
my
one.
introduction to pain, a pain you cannot learn from books. Losing and coming back and losing and coming back. Like a little RK, very similar. Realize people follow the same kind of path in the
Also,
search.
I always believed in zero-based spending, which is the optimum way to learn. Glutton for pain. However, what you learn is more than a trump but no RK. We are talking substance here. Well, I sell all of my businesses. He. So well, I create, sell and invest for passive investments. But cash flow is coming from currency option premiums, other people's businesses' dividends, both private and listed companies. Then there are some interest income, because I usually engage in lending money to businesses from time to time. The idea is to always receive cash flow when I invest. That is the main goal for me. Then sometimes I engage in pure speculations too, but it is rare. I don't like it. Building and selling companies may be seen as speculative, but the businesses are supporting me when I am trying to sell them, so the speculative aspect is pretty much ruled out. And the risk of building a business is rather small when you have done it a few times. I mentioned one of them before. A service where you pay tournaments with SMS messages instead of with your debit card or credit card.
I have sold that business already, though mentioned that in another post on this forum. But the way this business makes money is through SMS fees and referral income.
The website charges a little sum of cash for every SMS it processes. Also, the business is a poker skin for bigger poker sites, so you can essentially call some poker a payment processor more or less.
As a skin, you make money on referring players who deposit money at these bigger poker sites as soon as they open up an account at these bigger sites, owns the referral income on future deposits from the same customers.
There are numerous sites out there being skins for bigger poker sites. But they are not charging money through SMS. As I mentioned in the previous post I referred to above, this SMS idea isn't that unique. Not something earth-shakingly
And it
innovative.
also has some limitations to it, one being the amount you can transfer every time you SMS. That one issue strictly hinders what you can make or profit on the SMS deposits
Maybe
people
that
do.
issue will be solved in the future, who knows? The buyer of this company thought it was something they could solve.
That is the fun thing about company buyers, they always think they can do better than you. And that is a good thing. Oftentimes they do a much better job than the founder-detached
It's kind of early to say, but I'm probably 2 to 3 years away from living off my business.
Gaffwalls, big congrats. What type of business, if I may ask? This is the type of stories we love to read about here.
Goffles and Andvive. You were both on the same conference call yesterday. I am guessing that you have met at a past get-together as well.
Since you are both signed up for the next BNP, you will have time to talk.
Wow,
Great.
what a really great thread so far. I think at this point, any desire to keep getting income from a job is all relative.
In most cases, it's not really about how much you are making, but how much you are saving after expenses. Keeping a steady flow to gain seed money, in which you can then leverage to build your business, can be Fastlane, if one tries to keep to a solid plan.
So it is all relative. With that said, if Jill has 15K in expendable cash per month, I'd say she can position herself well much more easily than anyone else who live by lower middle class or lower class terms. Also, where I am from, $2,000 per month in expenses are enough to get by.
I can definitely relate this one fact to the plumb versus the lawyer in cash flow.
How does one build a million net worth in 6 years with 15K or more seed capital without investing? Thanks in advance.
15K x 12 months equals 180K. 180K x 6 years equals 1.08 and don't have to do anything but put the 15K aside each month, in a shoebox.
Let's see. Until 2 years ago I was a student and barely an E as I was working $8 to $10 seasonal or temporary jobs until about 05 or 06 when I was working full-time as store manager at a small retail shop and going to school.
That was a short-lived. I was about to graduate and spent my last semester in Vienna, Austria where I was a 001 after school summer of apostrophe 07. I was on that was given the keys to the epitome of funness. It was a small biz that depended on his hiring an employee could afford or do everything myself.
The problem was that as my income went up, so too did my spending, and while I always looked for a deal, I made a huge purchase when I bought my sport bike, something I look back at and go, SMX4, this is B or C. As the thread shows, I could have done a lot more with that money by reinvesting and possibly putting the money towards starting a scalable and more sustainable business. I closed down the biz in May of last year and became a U unemployed for 4 months before starting back up as an E with the dreams of becoming an S again within 12 months. Cool gleamer.